Okay, let's talk about when oh, you know what? One of the only videos I've ever had removed from YouTube is a
Yes.
video where I talked about Martin Wilkesman.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know anything about Martin Wilkesman is you.
If you say his name, is this going to get this whole thing removed?
No, because I'm not showing his photo or anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Martin Wilkesman is a guy who worked at middle management, and he would be sent around to orgs around the world to do IT installation stuff, work with, IT. And this is actually part of your story of how you ended up leaving the Sea Org. You were basically like, I want to leave, I want to leave, I want to leave. And they said, you know what, let's put you on some full-time auditor training so you get a better understanding of what Scientology is and how you're helping. And so you did this auditor training. And one of the people you were assigned to audit was this guy, Martin Wilkesman. And so you're auditing, and he starts telling you, I'm going to speak in some gentle words.
Yes.
He starts telling you about all the Scientologist children he's abusing in the homes of the Scientologists who have been asked to put him up when he's visiting these orgs doing IT work. And he's telling you some horrible things to the point where, one, you refuse to keep auditing him, and you report him to ethics and the Office of Special Affairs. And you say, we need to report this guy to the authorities. And what did they tell you?
No, we're looking into which of these instances are actually illegal and how bad it is, because they were involving different European countries which have different laws. I was told I do have to keep taking him in session. I do have to keep interacting with him and auditing him. I was given some technical jargon about what was really going on with me. That
there was something wrong with you.
Triggered.
There was something wrong with you that you were so upset at what he was telling you?
Yes, and that I didn't want to be in a room with him. I didn't want to have to stand in a line with him or be in a space with him, and I didn't want to interact with this person. I was like, get me away from this person. And by the way, I'm having anxiety attacks. I don't think I said that word because I didn't know what a panic attack and an anxiety attack were at the time, because you're not allowed to study anything about mental health. So now I know what it was. But hey, I'm freaking out. I can't sleep. I'm just crying for no reason. I start shaking. I'm like flipping out. Oh, well, this technical thing is wrong with you. And as an auditor, you need to take him back in and you need to care for your pre-clear. And we need to make sure that he's not getting introverted and that he doesn't get introverted on this. And I was like, I think he should be introverted.
So for the viewers, introverted means introverted is kind of a Scientology term that means having attention on yourself instead of on your environment. In other words, if you're insecure and you're embarrassed, that would be being introverted. If you're thinking there's something wrong with you and you're depressed, that's
feeling
all
bad
kind
about
of,
yourself.
That's all kind of being introverted. So they were worried. They didn't want to make him upset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't want him to be emotionally upset. And, no one ever, through the people that I knew who'd gone through, what they call security checking, which was the auditing procedure, which is interrogating, right? Looking for sins that someone has committed, things they've done wrong, right? Through all of that, I'd seen many people experience it. I'd experienced it. All the people are coming up with, and, atoning for things that are way less serious. I mean, like this serious, and this stuff is like off the charts. I mean, what's worse, right, than abusing children? But they were not. No one was ever like, oh, I'm worried about you being introverted or feeling. I mean, people are like, for me, it was like, you can't go to your family member's funeral because we didn't like the light on David Miscavige in this one photo, like, right. Or, something random, or like there was a media card missing, so you can't go visit your family, or someone who worked for you got in a car accident, so you can't go see your family.
So Rachel, that's what makes it so suspicious. And let's just call it what it is. Total bullshit. The response that you got, we know damn well Senior HCO and OSA does not give a damn about making people feel bad about themselves. So the fact that I mean, the examples that you just gave, I could give you the exact same example. They didn't want me to go to my twin brother's funeral when he died. They didn't care whether that
Yeah.
made me feel bad. Okay.
No.
So you go to the authorities and you're like, this Sea Org member is confessing to abusing children of Scientologists when he's out on official church business. And they're like, whoa, we don't want to make him feel bad. Whoa, we have to, like, that's not why they responded that way. They're
Why
just
did they respond that way? Because I was like, is this the Twilight Zone? Like,
I
why am
think
I
they
the only one who is completely outraged?
yeah. So do you more or less how many children do you recall him admitting to abusing? It
Let's
doesn't matter
see.
if it's accurate, just estimate.
I think it was six or seven.
In different European countries?
Different European countries, and some were, related to Scientology. Some they didn't know, and some were not. Some were
How does
just
a Sea Org member end up abusing non-Scientologist kids?
the internet.
Oh.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. I remember you told
It
me
was
something about this where
making videos of
he
children as young as 12.
and
Maybe
transporting
11, recording them in involving nudity and acts of a sexual nature, and recording them, and then keeping those, and then transporting them across country lines.
it doesn't get worse than that. And Osa's response is, let's not make him feel bad about himself.
Yes. And there were real life physical abusive molestation
Right.
actions with kids that were like 6 or 7, like little girls. I mean,
And
it's really not light stuff. And he was still going and still coming out with stuff and still saying things. I did not complete the action. Um, Someone else picked it up and finished. So, they found more stuff. And he was
eh,
saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't control myself. I can't stop myself. When I see a prepubescent girl, I just want to, and then said negative things that I can't repeat on YouTube.
one of
So
the
it
things
wasn't
that
like
is
an old
so
thing. It was like an active, like, this is danger. And then he was sent out again after that. I asked a security person after that, and he was someone else finished his auditing, his sec check, and then he was given money and sent out into orgs again on a project. And when being you've been at, like, if you were like at Asho, a church on L. Ron Hubbard Way, you're not gonna have as much access to children. Being sent into, a city, and you're in Chicago, and you're installing stuff in the new church there, and you're on your own, and you have access to children, and anyone in Scientology, any parent is going to trust you, and they bring their kids to the church, and their kids are running around. It's like, this guy's going to strike again. That's what happens. They strike again.
I've never understood why with Martin they were asking Scientologists to put him up in their homes instead of putting him in a hotel, which is what you would normally do with a Sea Org member.
And sometimes he wasn't in people's houses, and sometimes he was. The thing about him, and here's one of the issues, is he had other sexual activities that made him not qualified to do the position that he was doing, which was computer stuff, right? And that would normally be handled by a very high level organization. And because of his other sexual stuff that had come up before, I don't even know what it was, he was not qualified, because you have to have ethics qualification. So some group of individuals skirted around that and said, we don't have that many programmers, right? Because we have all these people who've been in the Sea Org and they've never even used a cell phone. They're not programmers. This guy was a programmer. He had that technical skill, which is a rare technical skill, and he was good at it, because you can be an evil psycho and be good at something, right? So they skirted around it and sent him on projects with ideal organization projects, and they would usually not even send another person with him. And so they were kind of like dodging the requirements to be able to get him to put in the servers and all of these. They have to also have this network so that no one within a church can get onto Wi-Fi and watch this YouTube broadcast, right? So he would make sure that people were kept
But
safe.
they want to protect the Scientologists from YouTube, but they don't
Yes.
want to protect them from a child
molester. No. So he was able to skirt around things, and it was very lax and very loose. And he would go sometimes under the CLO West US, which is the Western United States group that is in charge of all the churches in Western United States. Sometimes under the International Liaison Office, which is middle management, a little bit higher. And they would be these projects, and he's just run by one person. And sometimes he'd be with landlord office people, but they're off like overseeing construction. They're not worried about his day-to-day stuff. So if he went out and he was given a certain budget, if he could stay in a Scientologist's home, maybe they didn't give him enough money and he had to stay in a Scientologist home because there wasn't enough money being given to him because they just didn't issue him enough money to survive. Maybe he took that money so he could keep it. If you were keeping it, I would think it would probably be more to like buy food, but God knows what he was doing. So yeah, it is against the policy to stay at people's homes, but he did tell me he was staying in people's homes some of the time.
Right. So to your recollection, was it only kids in Europe for some reason that he abused, or was there kids in the US?
I do not recall any in the United States.
Okay.
A lot of it was Europe, but there was some questionable stuff coming up that I didn't finish following up with.
Right. Okay. And and even after he confessed this, even after you reported it, not only was he not removed, not only was he not declared, they continued sending him out.
Yes.
Who do you remember telling about this, whether it was a supervisor, an auditor, a CS, an ethics officer, senior HCO, OSA? Who do you recall sharing information about this with?
So I did share the information in writing. I probably printed this much stacks worth of paper to send to anybody and everyone I could find. And then I spoke in person with it's going to get into a bunch of like acronyms and like.
Just give me names. Just give me names.
Oh God, do I even know their names? They all go by titles.
Well, you can give me their post titles.
There was in senior HCO int. There was.
Just say it to me. You don't have to explain. You don't have to explain it to everybody. You can just tell me.
Okay, the DUR INR was the main point of contact for senior HCO int at ILO, who was a lady named Neri. And then there was a person in charge of senior HCO trainees, which is what he was considered. So
she was in charge of the senior HCO training pool for senior HCO int, or what?
And then there was, that was a guy named Jason. Then there was Angela Porter. Do you remember her?
I never knew the FLO people. ILO people.
Okay. So yeah, it was FLO. Yeah. And then it changed to ILO. Old school. And then I sent it to reports off RTC, ethics section, OSA int, a bunch of different legal titles, OSA int, which I don't even remember the names of. Obviously the supervisor, and then I spoke to someone from OSA int, legal off OSA int. I spoke to someone at OSA int whose name I don't remember. If I remember it, I will tell you. But she said that there was not, that we could not do, I could not, because I was like, look, just let me report it legally. Just deport the guy and let me report it. I'll send it to Interpol. I went and looked up the laws of Interpol. I'm like, look, just declare the guy, cancel his visa, send him back, and let the authorities take him. Like, it's not going to reflect badly on you if you do the right thing. And I was told, well, no, we can't do that.
The irony of them assigning you to do auditor training so that you could basically see how great Scientology really was, so that you wouldn't want to leave the Sea Org. And in the process of doing that, what you discover is that the church protects pedophiles.
Yeah.
It's
And I knew,
unbelievable.
and we all know that it's written in the ethics book, which is a basic book that is very accessible. It's written in there that you cannot offer up a Scientologist to the hands of the law, right? But I always kind of assumed that, well, there must be someone in RTC or OSA int who does that function, right? Like they will if you've done something really awful, they're going to sit you down and be like, look, you got to go report yourself, you got to go turn yourself in, and they would like that was like, okay, well, maybe we don't do it, but if we report it, something will happen. There's someone high enough up who understands all the legal stuff, and they can figure out how to do it so it doesn't get like misunderstood in the news or something like that. I could kind of think with that, back in the day. But no, there is no one. It just gets buried and covered up. And the thing is, it's not okay. It's not okay for you to force your religious belief as a Scientologist on other people's children and the safety of other people's families. That's not religious freedom, right? Religious freedom does not give you the right to hide and cover things up and cover up pedophiles, right? Because you are like, well, it's my religious freedom. I know we can just sex check him a little bit and we will solve him, because they actually do believe we're going to solve the fact that he's a pedophile. We're going to solve this with him, and we're the only ones. We're going to fix him. If we give him to the law, he's just going to go to jail and nothing good's going to happen, or they'll screw it up and he'll be free. So we're going to fix him. And the thing is, you don't have that right to decide that for my kids.
Right. The last piece of this, to the best of your knowledge, the Scientologists whose kids he abused weren't even informed that he had confessed to this stuff.
No.
In fact, in Scientology, that would be almost unthinkable. That's just not really the proper, I'm asking sort of rhetorically, but I just wanted you to verify. Like, no one said to you, don't worry about it. We don't have to go to Interpol because we're going to handle it with the parents. Nobody said that.
No, and it wasn't like, let's find out the homes he was staying in and let's dig into that and let's make sure we alert those parents that something may have happened. No. Right. Now let's call in the young staff member that he was doing this and that with and make sure that they're okay. Make sure that they're not introverted. Make sure that they're not having trauma induced, nightmares. And no.